All right, today we're going to do lesson 7 from unit 2. This is going to be measures of variation. So we're going to have two measures of variation. One of them is range and one of them is standard deviation. So all the range is taking the highest minus the lowest value. So in the previous section we did mid-range, which was adding them and dividing by 2. And in this one we're doing just plain old range, highest minus lowest. Make sure that you're doing the correct one. And the big thing is a standard deviation. And standard deviation basically tells you how far apart your numbers are spread out. So the smaller the standard deviation, the closer your numbers are together. So if you have a list of numbers that, are in the hundreds and you've got 100 and 101, 102, 103, something in that range, the standard deviation is going to be pretty small. But if I go 100 and 200 and 375 and 842, those numbers are spread further apart. Standard deviation is going to be bigger. So closer together, smaller standard deviation, farther apart, bigger standard deviation, which is what this graph kind of demonstrates. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do standard deviation, just like I did in the last section with mean, median, mode, and all of those. Let's do the calculator first. So I am doing the same example from lesson 6. So this was the numbers that I had in the calculator. So again, if you deleted them, and if you want to take a second to try this, you can take a moment, hit pause, and type those in. All right, then after you have those typed in under stat and edit, then go to stat, calc, 1var stats. Again, this should say L1, this should be blank. Go down to calculate, and you have these numbers here. So there's two standard deviations that are given in this one. You have one for a sample and one for a population. So the fourth thing down, the SX, is sample, and this Greek letter here is sigma. So sigma X is for a population. For the time being right now, we are going to be taking the samples, so we're going to use the top number here. So approximately 26.61 would be the standard deviation for that. And if I wanted the range, that was the other thing that was asked. That's just highest minus lowest. So if I go here, max minus min, so 100 minus 5, so the range would be 95. No real formulas for doing that. Same thing over here when I'm doing it on Google Sheets or Excel, if you happen to be using that. Still the same idea. Range would be highest minus lowest if you want to actually do it. So equals the max that column minus the min of that column, and do the range. Again, the nice thing is if I then take this number and change it to a 6, then the range would change as well. And then standard deviation. So that is equals STDEV there's that same number, 26.62 approximately for those. When we're talking about rounding and things like that, the mean, we're going to usually take that and round that one decimal place more than the original number. So this would be 32.3. Standard deviation, we're usually going to go a couple more than that. So 26.62 or 26.613. As you're working through those, kind of look at the answer key. And as we get towards the test, we'll be talking about that a little bit in class of what's appropriate and what spot to do those things. Okay, so then the other thing from this lesson, if you look at the notes, obviously if you definitions, you can take and pause this and copy those in if you want to, or they are online as well. And you can go through the examples that are on those. Coefficient of variation is the other thing that you're going to be asked to do. So what a coefficient of variation does is it takes two different sets of information and tells which one has more variability to it. So in this particular example here, we've got somebody selling cars. It tells you how much that the commission is and how many sales there are. So the question is on a month-to-month basis, is the number of sales like more up and down, or is the amount of commission that their salesman makes more up and down? So all coefficient of variation is right here is to take, start the thing right here. So this one would be for the car sales. Is you take the standard deviation. So standard deviation, this one is 5. Divide it by the mean and multiply that by 100 to get a percentage. So 5 divided by 87 times 100 gives me about 5.75%. And then the commission would be 773 divided by 5,225 times 100. I forgot the number. 5,225. You get 14.79%. So the one that's more variable would be the commission. So, the guy that sells the cars is going to make a bunch of money in one month and a little bit, and less than that in the next month, and, kind of go more up and down, whereas the car sales are going to be a little more steady. So them selling cars, sometimes they make more money on those sales than don't. So that's how you do coefficient of variation. Standard deviation divided by mean times 100. Okay, and that is lesson 7 from unit 2. Let me know if you have any questions.